Today, we are officially closing the shutters on, well, damp, dreary, duty-bound English society. And we're opening them onto the bright, maybe unpredictable chaos of the Italian coast. We're asking a question that, dictates vacations, retirement plans, and sometimes these desperate secret savings accounts.
Yeah.
Can a sudden, deliberate change of scenery fundamentally change who you are?
And we're diving deep into the source material behind the Enchanted April, which isn't just like a charming little story. It feels more like a blueprint for psychological escape.
Okay.
Our mission really is to follow these four women, each kind of drowning in her own version of social and personal exhaustion.
Right.
As they conspire basically to rent this forgotten medieval castle on the Mediterranean, San Salvatore. And we track the profound, often really surprising transformations that happen when they finally just let themselves be happy.
And the whole thing kicks off with this perfectly irresistible lure, doesn't it? This piece of ad copy that's just genius in a London paper.
Oh, it's brilliant.
It just says, "To those who appreciate Wistaria and sunshine, small medieval Italian castle on the shores of the Mediterranean to be let furnished for the month of April."
Wistaria and sunshine. Just think about that phrase for a second.
Yeah.
It's the absolute total opposite of everything they know in Hampstead. The source material paints this picture of just intense, suffocating routine, a life ruled by thrift and sooty rain.
And leading the charge, the first streamer, is Mrs. Wilkins, Lotty.
Lotty.
She's the one staring out her window at what the source calls the really extremely horrible sooty rain. She's miserable, she's quiet, and she sees that advertisement not just as maybe a holiday, but as a lifeline,
Sign. It's almost like this moment of financial theological clarity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lottie's husband, Malurch, he's a solicitor.
Stuffy.
Very stuffy.
Yeah.
Obsessed with thrift, constantly criticizing her for what he sees as extravagance, and he always told her to save for a rainy day. So she's looking at the actual rain outside, looking at the ad for the sunny castle, and suddenly thinks, maybe this is the rainy day he meant.
So she feels she has to spend it now.
Exactly. Before he finds some other less joyful, lesser use for it. It's quite subversive, really.
And let's be clear about the cost of his thrift obsession for her. Lottie's entire private wealth. It's only £90.
90 pounds.
Saved painstakingly, pound by pound, out of her dress allowance, which was only £100 a year.
Think about that. £100 a year for clothes. To save 90 pounds from that.
It means her clothes are, well, the source says her acquaintances call them a perfect sight, and not in a good way.
No, definitely not. So this castle is her ticket out, bought at the price of, 5 years of looking dabby?
Pretty much. Then at their economical Hampstead club, she spots the second dreamer, Mrs. Arbuthnot Rose.
Rose, yes. Very different from Lottie. She's kind, but quite moralizing, intensely devoted to duty, and just absolutely steeped in this quiet unhappiness.
And Lottie watches her and sees Rose looking at the exact same part of the Times, the same ad.
And the connection is just immediate, silent, deep. They don't need to say anything to know they're both sort of drowning in the same grayness.
And what they yearn for is so specific, isn't it? It's laid out. Color, fragrance, light, sea, instead of Shaftesbury Avenue and the wet omnibuses.
And the fish department at Shoolbred's, and the tube to Hampstead, and dinner, and tomorrow the same, and the day after the same, and always the same. It's that exhaustion of pure monotony, unfulfilled life.
You just desperately need an escape from the sameness.
And this shared misery, this silent understanding, it sparks this completely improbable partnership, which pushes us right into the next phase, really. The conspiracy of escape. Duty versus desire. And
it's Lottie, the normally timid one, who starts it in a kind of burst, the source says. She convinces the quiet, morally rigid Rose to secretly answer the ad.
Yeah.
And what's brilliant is Lottie's justification. It's completely twisted. She argues it's necessary not as selfish indulgence, but as a moral duty. She says, "We would come back so much nicer." She insists the trip is actually unselfish because it'll make them better wives, better people.
Wow. That's quite the argument to make to someone like Rose.
Exactly. Because for Rose, this is a huge leap. Her entire life is this dedicated campaign of living for others, helping the poor, always taking advice from her vicar.
Right.
To her, a holiday, any pleasure just for herself is pure self-indulgence. The battle inside her must be fierce. She must feel like she's failing everyone by even thinking about it.
And her inner conflict gets even more complicated because of where her money comes from, her nest egg. We have to talk about Frederick Arbuthnot.
Yeah, sorry, Rick.
He's an author. Makes a very good living writing these popular kind of sensationalist memoirs.
Not just any memoirs, though, right? It's specific.
Very specific. He focuses on the mistresses of kings, Du Barry, Madame de Pompadour, that sort of thing.
So scandalous historical figures.
Exactly. He's making a fortune on, essentially, ancient sin and gossip. And Rose. She considers every single pound she lives on to be the fruit, posthumously ripened, of ancient sin.
Wow. That's heavy.
It is. This idea of corruption is so real to her that she tries to purge the money by spending almost all of it on charity, on the poor. She hopes the sheer goodness of the cause will somehow filter out the sin.
That detail from the source is just incredible. The poor's very boots were stout with sins.
Isn't that amazing? This money is physically, morally tainted in her mind. Yep. She's trying to launder it through good deeds.
So for her to then use that same money, that sinful money, on a hedonistic holiday for herself, I mean, that's just massive moral abandonment in her eyes.
Completely. Which makes the act of even writing the inquiry feel like this huge betrayal.
Yeah.
She writes to Z, Box 1000, hiding this strange longing that's taken hold of her.
And the source notes how she feels afterwards.
Yes. After she posts the letter, she feels exactly like a woman who's just come away from a secret meeting with her lover.
So desire, even just for beauty and sunshine, has already sort of replaced duty.
It seems like it. It's already starting to work on her.
And once the reply comes, things move fast. San Salvatore costs £60 for the month.
Which is a fair bit, but manageable if split.
Right. But Rose wants to avoid any questions about her name or Frederick's potentially scandalous name, so she decides to bypass the whole reference process.
Ow.
She draws the full £60 secretly from her savings bank and takes it personally to the owner, Mr. Briggs, in London.
Now that is bold. That's Rose taking control, her first real act of, let's say, calculated selfishness.
Definitely. And she uses her appearance, her sober apparel, and her grave voice to project absolute respectability.
And it works.
Perfectly. Briggs sees this quiet, dignified woman paying cash up front. He instantly assumes she must be a respectable war widow or something similar. He completely waives the references.
The deal is sealed, not by her actual character at that moment, but by the performance of her usual character.
Clever. Very. So they've got the castle, but the conspiracy isn't over. Lottie does the maths.
Ah, finances.
Yeah, her £90. It's not going to cover everything if they only split the £60 rent plus expenses 2 ways. That margin is too tight.
So they need more people.
Yeah.
To reduce the cost.
Exactly. Which brings us to the third phase. The cast is completed. They have to advertise for 2 more ladies to get a quarter share each.
And the 2 women they attract are, well, let's just say they make for an interesting mix. Hilariously ill-suited, maybe.
You could say that. First, we get Lady Caroline Dester. Calls herself Scrap.
Scrap. Young, incredibly beautiful, exquisitely dressed, slender.
Yeah.
Adored by everyone in London society.
Sounds perfect.
Except she's completely, utterly exhausted by being adored.
Exhausted by being beautiful and loved. That's a problem.
It is for her. She's seeking not just rest, but the rest of complete contrast. Her issue is her own beauty. She feels constantly besieged, like people are trying to grab at it. She even feels her amazing clothes, her furs, her jewels are actively wearing her out, dragging her about at all hours. She just desperately wants to disappear, to be properly alone.
Okay, so she wants escape from admiration. Now contrast that with the final guest.
Mrs. Fisher?
Oh.
Mrs. Fisher. Elderly, quiet but stern, very educated, intensely respectable, still wears black 11 years after her husband died.
A bit of a relic.
Essentially, yeah. A relic of Victorian society. She's like a walking, talking almanac of literary celebrity.
She name drops.
Constantly. Carlyle apparently scowled at her. Matthew Arnold held her on his knee as a child. Tennyson sonorously rallied her about her pigtail. She carries this weight of history and seriousness.
And she's wary of the others.
Intensely wary of Lottie Wilkins. Demands references, specifically because she says she doesn't want to be shut up in a castle with somebody who saw things.
Saw things? Like ghosts?
No, more like saw beauty or meaning in things. It stems from this moment when Lottie got a bit ecstatic and said the immortals somehow still seem alive, like Keats might just walk in. Mrs. Fisher basically sees Lottie's whimsical joy as a sign of dangerous instability. She's terrified of genuine enthusiasm, it seems.
So these 4, the timid dreamer, the moral zealot, the exhausted beauty, and the censorious Victorian, they have to get through the month of March before they leave. The source calls it the uneasy month.
And you can see why. For Rose, it's pure internal torture. The weather's awful, wet and raw, which means more sickness among the poor she helps.
Making her feel even guiltier about the holiday fund.
Immensely guilty. Spending money simply and solely to be happy feels like a crime when others are suffering. Her vicar is apparently dismayed by her sudden lack of interest in her duties.
And this guilt peaks when Frederick, her husband, just gives her a check for £100, totally oblivious to her secret savings or the trip.
What did she do?
Her guilt is so overwhelming, she instantly gives it all immediately to the organization she worked with.
Wow. Pushes away financial security again. Prefers the moral debt, maybe, just weeks before they're supposed to escape. That's intense.
Meanwhile, Lottie's just terrified. Mellersh will find out. He's constantly going on about thrift.
Of course.
But then the absolute unthinkable happens. Mellersh himself suggests a trip, says something like, I am thinking of taking you to Italy for Easter.
No, the audacity. After all her secret planning.
Lottie becomes completely incoherent. Her reaction is this mess of terror, guilt, and surprise. Mellersh immediately gets suspicious, starts cross-examining her, demands she cancel this mysterious invitation she keeps mumbling about.
Oh dear, so how does she get out of that?
Rose has to be brought in, reluctantly, to basically validate Lottie's shaky story that some friend invited her to Italy.
Does Rose lie?
Well, Rose struggles with it. She knows she's not telling a direct lie, but she admits to herself she's giving him an incomplete impression. She even wonders, do you see any real difference between an incomplete impression and a completely stated lie? God sees none.
Oof, the guilt again.
But Mellersh believes Rose, implicitly. Her gentle, austere manner just radiates trustworthiness. She has this calming effect. Her piety is finally put to practical, if slightly sinful, use, saving Lottie's holiday.
That essential little sin secures the trip. But after months of anxiety and plotting, the journey itself seems designed to test them further, which takes us into Section 4. Arrival at San Salvatore. Chaos and first light.
They were expecting sunshine, obviously. Instead, they find Genoa, Nervi, Mezzago, all just shrouded in solid sheets of rain.
Not ideal.
And the train is 4 hours late. It's midnight when they finally arrive, exhausted, anxious.
And all the normal transport is gone, right?
Yeah.
They're met by this rather sketchy character, Domenico's cousin Beppo. His dripping hat slouched over one eye doesn't exactly inspire confidence. He leads them to a tiny high carriage afly.
And the second they get in, disaster strikes.
The horse. It awoke with a start from its reverie and immediately began going home rapidly without Beppo, without the suitcases.
It just bolts without the driver.
Yes. Beppo has to chase after it, shouting vociferously in Italian they can't understand. You have to picture Mrs. Fisher's face during all this.
Whoa, absolutely. Pure horror. Beppo eventually catches the horse, right?
Yeah, he gets it back, then tries desperately to communicate. He attempts lucidity, talking really loudly, making these simplest elucidatory gestures.
But they don't speak Italian.
Not a word. All they can do is keep repeating, San Salvatore, San Salvatore.
Yeah.
Clinging to the only destination they know. And they're being driven precariously along this winding road right next to the black, unseen sea, blinded by rain. Terrifying.
Then the carriage just stops, abruptly, in some village called Castagneto. Not the castle entrance they expected.
No, and the doors are flung open, and these ragged youths appear out of nowhere, grab all their luggage, and just run off up the hill into the darkness.
Okay, that must have been the moment of peak terror.
Absolutely. Drenched, exhausted, can't communicate. They are utterly convinced they've been robbed and are probably about to be murdered.
Rose even wonders if this is divine punishment, right? For all the devious paths of prevarication and deceit.
Exactly. She thinks this is it, the reckoning.
But the punishment never comes. Domenico, the actual castle butler, shows up to guide them.
Ah, salvation.
They start climbing this winding, steep footpath. It's dark, it's raining, but even so, the warm rain was bringing out all the sweetness. They can smell invisible wistaria, honeysuckle, all these hidden blossoms.
That journey through the dark, surrounded by hidden fragrance.
Yeah.
It's so symbolic of their whole escape, isn't it? Feeling their way towards something beautiful they can't quite see yet.
They reach this wrought iron door, a flood of electric light shines out, and they step inside, into sanctuary. Their luggage is there, safe and sound.
Oh, the relief. It must have been immense.
Total transformative relief. And Lottie, the quiet, sand-colored woman, she just transforms on the spot. She turns and embraces Rose immediately.
Does she?
Yes. Declares the first thing to happen in this house shall be a kiss. That English stiffness, broken, before the first bag is even unpacked.
Wow. With that kiss, the spell of San Salvatore is cast. Which moves us nicely into Section V, the transforming power of the place itself on each of them. And Lottie's experience is immediate. It's profound.
She wakes up the next morning feeling perfectly content and realizes she's in a bed all by herself, which she calls an adorable condition, having not been without Mellersh beside her for 5 years.
Ah, the simple joy of solitude. She calls her room, which is quite cool and austere with iron beds, her cell, but it's clearly a cell of freedom for her.
And her real arrival in heaven moment comes when she opens the shutters.
Ah, the view.
All the radiance of April in Italy lay gathered together at her feet. She sees the sea, the mountains, this great black cypress, and she just feels washed through with light.
Beautiful.
And this is where the theme gets really interesting. The moral reversal she feels, instantly.
How so?
In Hampstead, she'd been terribly good and merely felt tormented. But here, doing absolutely nothing unselfish, just basking, she feels pure, unadulterated joy. She realizes, quote, she is naked of goodness and was rejoicing.
Naked of goodness. That's powerful. It's like the place stripped away the obligation to be miserable in the name of virtue.
Exactly. She even tries to do her usual anxious worrying, tries to picture Mellersh back in London, angrily pulling on his boots, the picture of grumpy English disapproval.
Did you do it?
No! Mellersh shimmered, became rose-colored, became delicate violet, was lost in light. He's resolved into beauty, melted into harmony.
Wow, the physical location literally dissolves the power of her old anxieties, her old constraints.
She feels firmly grafted, rooted, built into heaven. Lottie is basically untouchable now, blissed out.
But Lady Caroline, scrap. She finds that even in paradise, beauty itself is still a constraint for her. She arrives early, immediately claims the best room, the top garden with the Judas tree. She's seeking that solitude.
Does she find it?
Not really. The place itself almost acts like a conscience on her. Her first reaction is, I want to think.
And she's startled by this recurring thought that her whole glittering past life, the parties, the admirers, the expensive clothes, it was all somehow tawdry.
A reevaluation, definitely. But she still craves solitude. And the tyranny of her physical beauty follows her even here.
She's still besieged.
Constantly. By admirers she mentally calls human flies.
Oh.
And the tragedy for Scrap is that she literally cannot be rude or dismissive.
Why not?
Her voice. Apparently, thanks to a special formation of her throat and the roof of her mouth, every attempt she makes at a curt, forbidding sound just comes out like a kind compliment.
Oh, no.
And if she tries to frown, she just looks pathetic and appealing, making people rush to comfort her.
So she can't escape being desirable, even when she wants to push people away.
Exactly. Even the servants, Costanza and Domenico, fuss over her constantly, fetching cushions, convinced she has a headache, when all she wants is to be left alone to think. She finds herself wishing desperately for nets, like butterfly nets, for keeping them off.
Poor Scrap. Meanwhile, Mrs. Fisher, the elderly Victorian, she's fighting this spiritual assault from the castle, isn't she? Tooth and nail.
Oh, she is. She immediately tries to assert dominance, claims the nice honey-colored sitting room for her stick.
Even though the source notes she can actually trot without it later on.
Precisely. She starts moving beds out of rooms, trying to impose some kind of London order on this beautiful Italian chaos.
But the environment's too strong for her.
Way too strong. By the second week, she can't sit still. She's described as trotting backwards and forwards between her room and the battlements, just staring out at the sea, restless, unable to control the place or her companions, who are getting lighter and happier by the day.
And this restlessness comes with something physical too, doesn't it? Something that worries her.
Yes. This truly bizarre internal physical response. A curious and quite embarrassing sensation of rising sap.
Rising sap, like a tree in spring.
Exactly. She feels as if she were presently going to burgeon. It's like youth and life itself are physically attacking her rigid, elderly Victorian sensibilities. She hates it.
And she tries to maintain order how? By policing the others.
Yes, she keeps trying to curb Lottie's growing exuberance, and she throws herself into housekeeping, trying to impose financial control.
Which leads to the confrontation with the cook, Costanza.
The legendary battle over the wildly extravagant bills. Costanza is just doing as she pleases with cream and eggs and lovely ingredients. Mrs. Fisher confronts her, sternly warning her that unless the food costs a quarter of the current price, she simply won't be paid.
Huh? English thrift versus Italian abundance waged over breakfast foods.
Pretty much. But even as she fights this battle, that inner sap is rising. It's a sign that even she is losing the war against joy.
And finally, Rose Arbuthnot, Her transformation seems the slowest, maybe the most agonizing.
It really is. She sees the beauty, she feels the peace, but she also feels dejected, spiritually lost. She finds to her horror that she didn't want to pray. Can't think of a single thing to say to God.
She feels like she's let go of her anchor.
Exactly. Her anchor of prayer and her charity work are gone. She feels exposed adrift.
And the clarity of San Salvatore, it's painful for her, isn't it?
Very. She finds herself thinking less about the poor back home and more about herself. And she comes to this terrible, clear realization that her obstinate straight-lacedness about his books and her austere absorption in good works have been foolish and perhaps even wrong.
Wow. She sees that her rigid morality didn't just estrange Frederick.
It profoundly bored him.
Well,
She finally understands her part in their distance.
so her focus shifts away from piety.
Completely. From spiritual purity to basic emotional connection. She develops this desperate, deep need to hold something of her very own tight to her bosom. She concludes that all her charity work, all her prayers, they're worth less than the love of one single person belonging to one.
And Lottie senses this shift.
Lottie, now the resident bliss expert, pushes her, write and invite him at once.
Does she?
Rose does write to Frederick, but then immediately sits down again, instantly regretting it, paralyzed by the fear that he'll just send back some hurried, indifferent note that proves he doesn't care anymore.
Oh, the vulnerability.
But the seeds of chaos, or perhaps reunion, have been sown. And in the third week, the men arrive, which triggers the comedic and emotional climax of the whole story. Section 6. The men arrive.
And Mellersh Wilkins is the first one? Comes by the morning train?
Mellersh, right. And he has zero interest in Lottie's emotional state, does he?
None whatsoever. He has a laser-focused network with Lady Caroline Dester. She's a adroit witch. Important family to advance his legal career. That's it.
So he meets Lottie.
How? Amiably enough. Kisses her affectionately, apparently. Later even surprises her by pinching his wife's ear, which is apparently unusual for him.
Okay. And Lottie's still floating in her Italian happiness bubble.
She's completely disarmed. She mistakes his purely calculated, goal-oriented friendliness for innate goodness. She literally decides he must be, by nature, a child of light, just because she's seeing everything through rose-tinted glasses now.
Amazing what a bit of sunshine can do to one's perception.
So, Mellersh, eager to freshen up before his big networking attempt, declares he needs a hot bath. And this is where it all goes spectacularly, hilariously wrong.
The bath fiasco. He ignores the servant's warnings, ignores the printed instructions, including the Italian word pericoloso, dangerous about the water heater stove.
What does he do?
Locks himself in, turns off the water tap while the fire is still blazing away underneath the copper boiler. And the stove immediately blew up with a terrific noise, sends this pillar of smoke and steam everywhere.
Oh, we visual. Mellersh, terrified, leaps out of the bathroom
Grabbing only a towel.
and is discovered on the landing, probably looking shocked and soot-stained, by Mrs. Fisher and Lady Caroline Dester.
The absolute pinnacle of absurdity. The stuffy, thrifty solicitor caught half-naked and smoking on an Italian staircase by the very society beauty he wants to impress and the stern Victorian matriarch. You couldn't write it better.
But here's the truly bizarre part, the payoff.
It works out for him.
He achieves his career goal. Through accidental nudity and near catastrophe, he gets introduced to Lady Caroline and Mrs. Fisher in the most memorable way imaginable.
Oh.
How? Mrs. Fisher, reflecting later on their shared shock, feels this peculiar and even mystically related bond with Mellersh afterwards. The explosion broke the ice more effectively than any formal handshake ever could.
Unbelievable. Accidental networking success.
And he manages to secure the solitary spare room, the one intended for a hypothetical guest named Kate Lumley.
Ah, Kate Lumley, Mrs. Fisher's secret weapon.
Exactly. Mrs. Fisher had this backup plan to invite Kate Lumley specifically to regularize the Wilkinses by forcing Mellersh and Lottie to share a room.
Impose propriety.
But Mellersh, by taking the spare room, unknowingly thwarts the entire Victorian moral police operation. He gets his own space.
Brilliant. Okay, so just as the smoke from the bath explosion clears, the second male arrival is announced. Not by train, but by telegram. For Rose.
Yes. It reads, "Am passing through on way to Rome. May I pay my respects this afternoon? Thomas Briggs."
Thomas Briggs, the owner. And Rose sees this telegram.
And she's instantly convinced it's Frederick's reply, the one she's been dreading and hoping for. She turns white with anticipated joy, only to read the name, Briggs.
Oh, the disappointment must have been crushing. From potential reunion to the landlord.
Pretty much. Briggs, of course, has been thinking so much of her since that day in London when she paid the rent in cash.
She was smitten then.
Apparently. He arrives and immediately falls head over heels, passionately in love with Rose, finds her charming and cozy. He even sees a portrait of the Madonna on the stairs that reminds him of her. He's young, active, clearly offering a very different path for her.
Interesting. A potential complication. But unbeknownst to everyone, the real Frederick has already arrived, hasn't he?
He has. Lady Caroline, trying to escape Briggs's rather intense proprietary stare, wanders off and is found by a visitor calling himself Mr. Ferdinand or the Rundle.
Who is, actually?
Frederick Arbuthnot, Rose's husband.
He followed Scrap there. Seriously.
He did. Her mother told him Scrap was doing a rest cure somewhere quiet. And Frederick came, motivated by pretty much the same base desire that drove Mellersh, frankly, to grab at her beauty.
So he's there for Scrap, not Rose.
Initially, yes. He's focused entirely on Scrap. But he gets temporarily distracted from his mission by Lottie's incredibly enthusiastic, friendly questioning about his mother-in-law's rather amusing social life back in London.
Lottie's innocent chatter delays him.
Yes, it allows him to postpone his actual appearance until dinner, giving him time to sort of compose his cover story as Arundel.
Which leads us to the dinner table climax, one of the great reveals.
Absolutely. Frederick, as Mr. Arundel, is formally introduced to the whole company. Lottie sees him, puts two and two together instantly.
Of course you would.
And in this wonderful burst of San Salvatore joy and connection, she just blurts out the truth. Why, that's Rose's husband.
Boom. Just like that. No filter.
Rose, who's probably still reeling from the Briggs telegram disappointment, looks up, sees Frederick. His presence is utterly miraculous. It confirms her deepest, most hidden wish. She just flies to him.
And they embrace.
Passionately. Right there in the drawing room after dinner, forgetting years of coldness, her religion, his books, Briggs staring, all social norms. Just pure reunion.
And for Drake, does he have a realization too?
Instantly. While holding Rose, he feels this intense security. He realizes she doesn't care about his middle age, his looks, none of the things Scrap represents. He recognizes the immense power of the woman present and being actually held compared to that of the woman who is somewhere else.
The allure of the chase just vanishes.
Completely. The pursuit of Scrap is instantly, entirely forgotten. The power of the location maybe stripped away all the pretense and just forced them back together.
Yeah. That single embrace is worth more than 10 years of dutiful, silent marriage in Hampstead, it seems.
Absolutely. Which brings us neatly to our final section. Conclusion and final bloom. Harmony achieved.
And Frederick actually confesses his initial purpose to Scrap. Later on admits he followed her there to grab at her beauty.
How does Scrap react? Is she offended?
Not at all. She's actually relieved. Having been so thoroughly ignored by Frederick the moment Rose appeared, she forgives him instantly. Calls him as decent as a man for backing off once Lottie revealed the marriage.
And she feels released herself.
Hugely. She calls it her release from the tyranny of her own looks. For once, a man chose someone else over her, and it felt like freedom.
So Mellersh and Lottie are happily reunited, with Mellersh now convinced his wife is wonderful, mainly because she's happy.
Right. And Frederick and Rose have found this deep understanding that completely eluded them back in England when they were separated by duty and unspoken resentments.
And the garden itself seems to mirror this newfound harmony, doesn't it?
Beautifully. The wistaria, the first lure, is past its peak, having done its job. But now the garden enters its final, most glorious stage of flowering.
What comes next?
Now come the lilies, white stalks, syringa, jessamine. And finally, the crowning fragrance of the acacias. The whole garden seems to dress itself in white. It just grows more intensely scented. It symbolizes purity, peace, the culmination of their journey.
And Lottie, the original dreamer, now the sort of spiritual matchmaker.
Yes. She starts pairing people off. She observes the rather forlorn owner, Briggs, still gazing longingly at Scrap.
Who is now free to maybe connect with someone genuinely without that fear of being grabbed at.
Exactly. And Lottie predicts their future, saying quite confidently, I see them being the Briggses.
Huh. And even Mrs. Fisher, the sternest resistor.
Even Mrs. Fisher leaves San Salvatore on the 1st of May, utterly changed. Despite her stick, despite her initial dureness, she had felt that rising sap. Her inner self, the bit she tried so hard to keep locked down, had managed to burgeon.
The place really did perform a kind of radical purification on all of them.
It seems like it. Lottie found happiness by finally acknowledging her own needs were valid. Rose discovered that actual love was maybe superior to abstract moralizing. Scrap found true rest by just being ignored for a bit, seen as a person, not an object. And Mrs. Fisher found a flicker of her own lost youth just by being immersed in all that life.
So the final lesson here feels like it's about release, doesn't it? San Salvatore didn't change them by some external magic, maybe?
Perhaps not. Perhaps it just stripped away all those English constraints, the constant need for thrift, the heavy burden of duty, the pressure of being adored or being respectable.
And forcing them to confront who they really were underneath all that. When the pressure was finally off, their real selves could emerge.
Which leaves us with a really powerful question to think about, doesn't it? The true nature of this kind of transformation. Did the location itself change the people? Or did simply stopping the duty, stopping the social pressure, allow their real selves to finally surface, free of that inflamed, sore dreariness of Hampstead?
And maybe, for you listening, what or where is your personal San Salvatore? The place you could go, or the state of mind you could reach, to simply be yourself, without needing a metaphorical towel to protect your reputation.